Public Sector Audit Conference. And of course, how did we make of yesterday? Did we learn quite a lot about what's taking place in the public sector when it comes to issues of auditing? Did we? You didn't? You did? Okay. Let's begin now day 2 as we call upon someone to talk about the ease of doing business in relation auditing and of course relating that to the ease of doing business. He is the CEO of the Institute of Chartered Accountants Zimbabwe. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause to Mr. Mats Kunaka. He was there with us yesterday.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'll start with, this is what I'm going to cover, the introduction, and then Zimbabwe's position. Where does Zimbabwe rank as far as the ease of doing business is? And I'll also look at the pillars of effective audit, and then the last one, which is not quite clear on there, is the role of audit on specific indicators of ease of doing business. There are specific indicators, there are 10, sometimes there are 11, sometimes there are 12, which which are measured for countries on the ease of doing business. So I will be looking at only 5 of them, which I believe audit has got a relevance. And on the introduction there, societies need regulation, and businesses as part of society are no exception. Without the rules that underpin their establishment, cooperation and dissolution, modern businesses cannot exist, and where markets left to themselves would produce poor outcomes, well-designed regulation can ensure outcomes that are socially optimal and likely to leave anyone better off. This is coming from the Doing Business report, the 2016, the latest. So we are seeing there that societies need regulation, and businesses as part of society also need rules, and then those rules, you also need audit to ensure that, and reflecting on the statements, I believe audit is one of the key cornerstones of a well-regulated market. There's no debate that audit plays an important role in improving transparency and accountability in both the public sector and the private sector, thereby significantly playing a critical role in improving the ease of doing business. Where does Zimbabwe rank? Well, I'm showing there the countries in the regions, but the rankings are for all the economies which are ranked, which is about 178, and we see South Africa there on 53, and this second row is the ranking in the year before. This is the 2013-2014. The ranking before is 2012-2013. We see that South Africa has actually slipped from 52 in 2012-2013 to number 53, as far as the number 1 is the one with the most ease of doing business. So the further away you are from number 1, the more difficult it is. We see Zambia number 2 there. It was 102 in 2012-2013. You see it's now 93. It has moved 9 places. So they are doing something there that some people need to learn. Botswana was 103, and it has actually slipped. It's now 114. 11 places adrift. which means they are doing something wrong. And maybe Botswana, they may be complacent, I don't know, because things seem to have been working for them. DRC, we have no information there. Rwanda is one of those places which is used as an example of if you want to know how to do or to ease business, go to Rwanda. It was 63 in 2012, 2013. They slipped to 66. And Mauritius was number 54. They have gone up to number 45. Saying it +6, but the math doesn't say that. It's actually gone down by 9. And Zimbabwe, we were 132 in 2012, 2013. We are now 131. So we've moved one place in the right direction. In the right direction. And I know that there is a lot of work being done to try and improve the ease of doing business. There's a government project, even the Office of the President is involved, and there are a lot of things happening. And there's a target of saying we want to be in the top 100. And I believe that we should be able to do that in the next few years or a couple of years. The role of business in starting a business, role of audit in starting a business. It is important to streamline the process involved in starting a business. There's more that is needed to ensure that we're building sustainable businesses that contribute to government tax revenues, businesses that increase employment and the country's production capacity. Auditors play a key role right from the business inception. Auditors are also accountants, so in that role, they play a role in the inception of the organization. Two most important objectives. Two most important the two most objectives of the Ease of Doing Business Index include to encourage locals in that economy to start and build successful businesses, to attract foreign investment, to instill investor confidence by providing assurance to institutional and individual investors, both local and foreign. In the slides that follow, I'll look at how auditors play a key role in those objectives. Someone produces their own document to say, this is the profit that I've made, and okay, I'm now controlling from you. Okay. Attracting foreign direct investment. Auditors will be key in attracting FDI, and auditors play a role including, as I say, independent audit opinions of the financial statements which are presented to potential investors. Doing due diligence, maybe the potential investor has got an organization they want to target, and the auditors can be there to do a due diligence so that they are satisfied with the information that they've got. Transaction advisory could be an acquisition, could be a merger, it could be capital raising. The auditor will be there, or the accountant will be there to advise the organization. Also, feasibility studies could be greenfield. Is it possible? Will you make a profit? Are you likely to make a profit? And the auditor can can assist there. Paying taxes. As I said, auditors play a key role in assisting investors in their tax affairs in the various aspects, advice on education, on tax implications on transactions. These are the tax implications, enhancing tax compliance in calculation of taxes and submission of returns, ensuring returns are submitted on time, taxes are paid on time, efficient tax planning and tax administration services. So the auditor, in terms of that aspect of paying taxes, the auditor can assist the organization. Getting credit. Getting credit is one of the aspects which is rated in ease of doing business. The auditors play a key role, a critical role, to create an efficient financial service system. The consequence of audit failure can have unintended consequences on both the financial player and the borrower. The financial services provider relies on the insight of the auditor into the company operations. Determinations of how much to lend is based primarily on audit information. The borrower also relies on the advice of the auditor on how much to borrow to support the business. It's not a case of let's borrow as much as possible, because you could borrow too much and that will suffocate the business. And if the integrity of the credit information is questionable, it can lead a financial service provider lending to an organization which it should not, thereby resulting in a non-performing loan and consequently a loss. And if the information is such that someone who is creditworthy is deemed or is put forward as not creditworthy, it means they will end up not getting the loan or the funds, and therefore there is a likely loss of business, because this is a good credit-worthy customer who should have been given credit to increase their business. Getting credit, okay, just diagrammatically, what I was just saying, for the bank, by relying on inaccurate audit report, the bank will lend money inappropriately. This will increase the level of non-performing loans and can potentially cripple the bank. To the borrower, the business will borrow beyond its capacity to repay. Capital is eroded and the business struggles to service the loan. The business might be forced to liquidate due to the failure to service that loan obligations. And for the financial system, the banking system itself, as this cycle repeats itself, the whole financial systems is compromised and can actually crumble. Protecting minority investors. Minority shareholders are unduly prejudiced, especially in the following: when related party transactions are not disclosed, and most of them which are not at arm's length. Practices that are misaligned to good corporate governance. I think the first one we remember the cases of the banks. We're talking of related party transactions where shareholders would also be borrowers, and that was not disclosed. And in the end, some of the loans were not serviced, and that compromised the banks, which led to them. So if a minority shareholder, someone who had invested a little bit, is not aware of this, they will be compromised. So the audit is there to ensure that if there are related party transactions, they're actually disclosed in the financial statements, and thereby you are protecting the minority. And auditors, through the audit process, play a significant role in providing assurance on the financial statements. And they ensure that the related party transactions are adequately disclosed and become a key success factor in the audit process. Resolving insolvency is another aspect of ease of doing business, and that has aspersions to the legal framework. How long does it take? As Zimbabweans invest in strong legal framework for insolvency, auditors play a key role in business advisory to rescue companies from under financial distress. So they go in there maybe as curators if it's a bank, or as liquid judicial manager, and they're trying to resuscitate a struggling institution. Liquidation and company wind-up services, so your auditor or your accountant is there at the beginning when you start your company. Is there to try and resuscitate, and if it fails, is also there to bury it for you, to liquidate. So this is cradle to grave services which are offered by the profession. These processes are essential in order to protect creditors. Resolving company distress issues timely and in the right manner can improve confidence by investors, lenders, and other resource providers. So I hope that in this short presentation I've been able to show the role of auditors, the accountants, in the ease of doing business in as far as those 5 aspects that I talked about are concerned. Thank you. Tinotenda.
A round of applause for Mr. Max Knaka. Any questions, comments from that presentation? Show of hands. Mr. JB, are you okay this morning? Any comments arising from that discussion? Okay, Mr. Knaka, you talked about the issue to do with independence. And then you made that example of a son-in-law auditing his father-in-law's business. But how do we ensure independence when it comes to internal auditors? Because really they report to a CEO, for example, and if there have been any problems with the accounts, as it were, they are bound to be intimidated or whipped into line. How do we ensure independence when it comes to internal accountants or auditors, when it comes to giving out the right information about a company's figures?
Okay, the president of the Institute of Internal Auditors is here, Mr. Simon Yazega. I think he will talk about that. But one of the ways that we ensure that the internal auditor has got independence or is able to discharge their duty without fear is that they have a dual reporting role. They report to the CEO and they also report to the audit committee chair. So directly they should have that access directly with their report to the audit committee chair, who is not an insider to the company. So that should ensure that they do have that independence.
Okay. Did we think of any other questions? Okay. Can we get a microphone to Mr. John Brown?
You were talking about Rwanda as an example in the region. I was wondering about how Rwanda operates at that position vis-a-vis South Africa. If I could just get some comment on that.
I think Zambia is a lot of things. With these things, I think you start with the desire to want to change. You want to change, and then you look at which areas you want to change, and there needs to be the will from those who can make that change happen. And that is what has happened. And I think in our case, as I alluded to, we have also expressed that will, that we want to change, want to improve. And there are a lot of things the Office of President and Cabinet is doing things. And I think once that will is there and everyone is working together to achieve it, it will happen. And I think that's what happened in the case of Zambia. They didn't want to remain those people. They used to go in the morning, just leave a jacket there, and then they go. And they were not working. And I think the work ethic is changing, and they are getting there.
In terms of skills, where are we regards, the latest trends in the region? Do we have adequate people trained in terms of, you mentioned the issue of competence in your presentation. We still talk about issues of our literacy rate, blah, 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 but our institutions training people to be regionally competent and be able to execute their duties comparable with countries that are doing better than us, your South Africa's, for example?
I can say to me, without any doubt, that we are training the best who can stand their ground, not only in the region, but internationally. Our accountants, the ones that we train, we do have reciprocal agreements with at least 7 countries: Ireland, England, Scotland, Hong Kong, Canada, South Africa. What it means is that our members, when they go there, they actually do not need to write any exams. They don't write any more exams for those where we have got the mutual recognition agreements. And this is done after they've assessed our training methods and everything, and they are satisfied that we are at par with them, because you can't mutually recognize if someone is below you. For instance, we have been approached by India, Pakistan, and at the moment we don't think we're at the same level, and therefore we've not accorded them that status. And of the members that we have, for the Institute of Chartered Accountants, we have more than 1,000, about 1,800 active members. Of those, 900 are in the country. The other 900 are outside the country. They are working as chartered accountants, and their skills are not questioned. We've got about 250 in South Africa. We've got 170 in the United Kingdom. We've got about 50 in the States, about the same in Australia, and so forth. And they are working there at par with everyone else. So our skills are not just regionally matched, they are internationally matched.
Mine is a short question. What if the audit firm is recommended by the ministry for, let's say, 2 or 3 years? What's the implication? Or what can be the implication of the audit or the job?
The first year, they are really learning. The second year, the third year, you want to change them. I would recommend, I don't know what the system is, at least renewable for another 3 years. Because you want to, this is the other side now. You want someone to understand your business. And it takes a bit of time. And by that time, you then want to change them. So you need to balance them understanding the business, but not being too familiar that they are now almost part of you, to change them.
Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for our CEO of the Institute of Chartered Accountants. Mr. Nyazenga is about to give us a presentation on the role of internal audit in public sector governance. How can audit contribute to better governance? Let's give him a round of applause as he comes through.
Thank you so much. I would want to acknowledge the organizers of this seminar, the Minister of Finance and the Honorable Minister, Patrick Chinamasa. I would also want to acknowledge the PEMSEC, Mr. Kombabach as well, and also all dignitaries represented here. I would say all protocols observed. The definition of corporate governance is a system by which companies are directed and controlled. So it's a question of direction and controlling. If we also look at OECD principles, they talk of a set of relationships. It's relationships now between the company's management, board, shareholders, and stakeholders. And it's about providing a structure through which objectives of the company are set and the means of attaining those objectives. You see, they are now talking of structure, they are now talking of objectives, they are now talking of how we attain objectives, but it's all to do with how a company is directed and controlled. If we then look at it from internal audit, they talk of it as governance processes. And when we talk of governance processes, it's a combination of processes and structures implemented by the board of directors, in this case, board of governors, or an authority, a regulatory authority, in order to inform, to direct, to manage and monitor activities of the organization towards achieving its objectives. So you can see, these three, they have a common thing of directing and managing. We're still not there. But if we look at internal audit, it is an independent. I deliberately didn't want to answer the question, but probably in the presentation, I'll try to answer the question. It might be answered. If it is not answered, you are still free to ask the question at the end of the day. If we look at internal audit, it is an independent objective assurance and consulting. So there are two things. It is about assuring, and it is also about consulting or advisory services that are designed to, firstly, they are designed to add value, and secondly, they are designed to improve the organization's operations. And it helps to accomplish objectives. It brings a systematic, disciplined approach to evaluate and improve the organizations. I want you to mark these three things. It brings the effectiveness to risk, which is risk management. It brings effectiveness to control, which are internal control systems. And number three, it also brings effectiveness to governance processes. And if you look at that term, governance processes, if you go back to those definitions, they are talking about governance as processes, the combination of processes and structures are implemented by the board of directors to ensure that the organization achieves its objectives. Right, I think, let me just wind up by saying, institutions cannot be sustainable without a strategic mindset and being accountable to stakeholders. And also sustainable goods and services, they cannot be made or provided without meeting the needs of stakeholders and adhering to laws. So there is an issue of being entrepreneurial and having a strategic mindset. There's also an issue of having that mindset within a legal framework. So the issue is now trying to balance enterprise and control. What level of laws should we put? Do they not affect enterprise? But we still need enterprise in minds, isn't it? So government institutions need a GRC or a governance risk and management framework to achieve sustainability and equity. But despite having all these systems, we have those problems of indiscipline, we have those problems of corruption. So we need another eye, we need another leg, we need another arm, and that arm is internal audit. And that's where it can help in delivering value and also in enhancing value in private sector. I think the last one, I'll just summarize what we do, just in bullets. Number one, we evaluate risk. Number two, we assess controls. Don't worry about writing notes. I hope you give them the presentation. They improve operations. They review processes and procedures. They assure safeguards. They also offer insight and advice. Then they also communicate results and recommend actions. They find out what is working and what is not working. And they keep an eye on corporate culture. It's very critical because culture is what directs whatever we do. They look at the organization objectively and independently. They bring the organization-wide perspective. They advocate improvements. They raise red flags. I don't know whether they are white flags, but they are yellow flags, of course. But they raise those red flags so that they warn people. And the last one, which is very critical, and probably which might raise questions, they tell the story as it is. Thank you. On this note, I will just invite questions. But I would have wanted us to address challenges facing public sector internal auditors in terms of their reporting, in terms of coming up with a framework that will enable them to achieve the objectives that we were talking about. Thank you.
You touched on organizational status of heads of internal audit. Is it not possible from the institute's perspective to lobby for some form of regulation? Because, the level of the head of internal audit in an organization determines their effectiveness. Is it not possible to lobby for some form of law or regulation that at least they should be at this level?
If you look at corporate governance, it can take the legislative form or the comply or explain. Ms. Kunaka can help me. So I think over the years, from the researches that have been done, there have been limitations in legislating something. In that if you force someone to do that, what they don't want, they will just do what is called the bare minimum, and then it won't be effective. So then there is the other aspect, which is also the lobbying or the advocacy aspect, where you use what is called moral suasion. You are trying to persuade someone to do something. Usually, if they are convinced, they do it more, which is where our corporate governance laws are not laws, they are actually codes. But I understand they want to enshrine them into laws, and it now becomes regulation. So from an internal audit side of it, okay, we're looking at legislating the internal audit, but we have also engaged II Global, and we have benchmarked with organizations that have done that, and there are also limitations. So we are still at the research stage. But besides being legislated, I can ask the auditors, what steps are they taking in so also empowering themselves? It's one thing having legislation, but then if we legislate, then we'll say for heads of internal audit, they have to be certified government auditors or certified internal auditors. But how many are certified? We end up not having heads of internal auditors in government. So it has to be taken in stages. So first, we have to empower the internal auditors, where we are capacitating them through World Bank funds. Some are training as certified government auditors. And if we build an adequate pool, then we look at the option of legislating. But we need to build capacity first.
But what I wanted to understand is the issue of qualification. Because if my memory doesn't play tricks with me, I thought I heard you as if you were talking about, it should be Mr. Kunaka, he was talking about 1.8. I'm sure he was talking about certified ones. But I'm just trying to understand that the ones that we have, because I believe in government and the other state-owned enterprises, they are auditors. If they are not certified, what then is the regulatory framework? Because I want us to go back to two issues. One of the structure, and the second one to deal with the relationship between the internal auditor and the external audit. From practice, I seem to see a relationship that I don't seem to understand and appreciate.
I think it's about ethics, and it's about even also personal integrity. For me, I don't care that you know me for years. We can go to lunch together, we can have, but when it comes to work, work is work. I just treat it as work. That's me, I don't know. And if you look at our code of ethics, if they are certified, there are certain code of ethics. There are also some, just like a lawyer, if he violates the codes, they are brought before sanction and they cannot be practiced. If then there is a legal framework that says auditors with such certification can now practice, if they practice outside of the profession, then they can be disciplined. But for now, there is nothing like that. That's a gap that we identified. And remember, I benchmarked with Kenya, where I said they now have like an internal audit general, just like an accounting general. What I was proposing is like we have already seen the gap, and we are trying to bridge the gap by bringing in that. And we are trying to centralize internal audit. It deploys and supervises internal auditors so that they become independent other than and it can address some of the issues. Then on the relationship between external and internal auditors, there is what is called a combined assurance model. The combined assurance model, what it does, it looks at all assurance providers, not only internal auditors. Our assurance providers are external auditors, internal auditors, security managers, risk managers, if you have risk managers. So if you have a governing board or an audit committee, it then divides the duties that the terms of reference for internal audit start here and end here. Internal auditor, external you do this, risk managers you do that. And they then budget for their costs of assurance for the year. That way there is no duplication. And there is also supposed to be coordination and reliance of work within the assurers. But that can only be done if the guys are qualified and they trust each other.
Yeah, what we're finding is that more and more the external auditor is relying on the internal audit work. Once they are satisfied that their quality of work and their qualifications and documentation are in order, they will rely on that to the extent that they will then reduce the extent of their testing. Which actually brings the other thing that when we're talking, that auditors do not test 100%. Most of the time it's sampling. And this is one of the reasons why then when you then say, why did the auditor not find this? Because they sample they test on a sample basis.
Our role as an institute is also empowering the internal auditors, certifying them, and seeing areas where they can cooperate with other assurance providers. Mind you, external auditor is one arm, but there are other assurance providers. If you look at the combined assurance model, and if you're an organization, you need to look at how you can save the cost of assurance. So external audit is one arm, and maybe why we are concentrating on it is the key arm. But then there are other assurance providers, especially with big organizations and big parastatals. So you need to take a holistic approach to it.
Well presented deliberation, and of course thank you for your input here as well. He's the president of the Institute of Internal Auditors. Thank you so much for your time. So now We've been talking a lot about the Auditor General and the report, but what exactly is this organization all about? What do they do? We're going to invite now Mr. Eddington Alois Munazi. He's with the Auditor General's office.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremony, Domi. I'm not the Auditor General. Can you hear me? Yes. Yeah, I'm not the Auditor General. I'm representing the Auditor General, Mrs. Chiri. Good afternoon to you all. Let me begin by saying the Audit Office, the Auditor General's Office, is the supreme audit institution of the land of the state. The mandate of the Auditor General is provided in terms of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, that is Section 309. Most of the issues were discussed by my predecessors, the members representing PAC portfolio committees, for example. Basically, she is required to carry out financial audits of the whole public sector. Here I mean ministries, government departments, parastatals, local authorities, etc. is provided by Section 6 of the Audit Act. She may also carry out value for money audits or performance audits on certain public sector programs. I'm making reference to issues like the public sector investment projects, schools, bridges, hospitals, roads, dams, and other infrastructural developments. After carrying out the audits, she is required by law to produce an annual report on the audit of the financials for the subsequent year, which is to be tabled by Parliament by 30th June of each year. Of course, this is in terms of also Section 10, 11, and 12. We are now up to date in terms of, we are now up to date in terms of reporting. The 2015 report has been submitted to Parliament for tabling. It was submitted to Parliament for tabling, and therefore we are happy to say we are up to date, unlike the olden days where maybe we're several years behind, but now the report is current, we are discussing current issues. Also to satisfy herself that the receipt and disbursement of public monies has been made in accordance with proper authority and has been correctly accounted for, and that all reasonable precautions have been taken to safeguard state property. The receipting of public monies and also the expenditure, whether the resources, government resources, are spent well. I think yesterday people were talking of wasteful expenditure. That is what we look at. Then the Auditor General will carry out value for money audits, which entail the examination into the economy, efficiency, and effectiveness with which those entrusted with financial and material resources have utilized in carrying out their mandate. Those charged with, the issue of governance, are they doing their work in terms of their mandate given by government? That is the role, or in other words, these are the duties of the Auditor General in a nutshell, to make sure that public funds, public property is properly, effectively, economically utilized. Thank you very much. Then at this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, maybe we can entertain to questions coming from the floor. Thank you. I want to thank you.
One point that I noted is that at times, these audit firms that you assign to do audits, at times they misunderstand some systems and procedures. And even if you discuss with them during the exit interview, they insist on reporting something which is alarming, based on misunderstanding a system. And such things are very detrimental to organizations, because those reports, they appear in the newspapers with the negative reports, which at times emanate from poor workmanship on the part of the external auditor. So it is very important to have a continuous quality check on the work which is being done by these firms.
My question is to do with now that you are the auditor, we just want to find out about the same people that you send to us. Why is there no minimum charge? Because my neighbor Mangwe there can be charged 2.5, and I be asked to pay 10,000, and the other neighbor there be asked to pay 5,000-6,000. And as you know, I'm sure the issue of money is no longer peculiar to any entity in Zimbabwe, given that when you go to the bank now, you may not find the money that you want, which is there. So why is it that there is no minimum amount that you're asking these people to? Because in the past, we would tender ourselves and perhaps look at what we could afford in terms of the person that we are going to give it to us. But now that there is this dispensation, why is the regulation about how much money is charged? Thank you.
My question is, parastatals, they report to ministries. Where do you get the comments? Do you get the comments from the auditor, the external auditor, who is doing the work on your behalf? Or you get the comments from the respective ministry, or you get the comments from management of the parastatals? Because adding on to the first comment, some of the issues that are being churned out in the newspapers may not be exactly what is happening on the ground, and it's detrimental to maybe the operations of some of these parastatals. Thank you.
According to the Constitution, there is supposed to be an audit commission which supervises the work of the audit office. We have not heard anything about when is it going to be in place to supervise the audit office work?
Yeah, like I said, thank you very much for those who have asked some questions. Like I said, most of the questions we're going to take them up. You know, this office, you may be wondering why we have taken this position. The reason is because the Auditor General is featuring in the media almost on a daily basis. So we want to be very cautious how we move. Not to say, of course, what you're asking should not be answered. But let me say, some are quite general, they are quite straightforward, but those that I feel require the attention of the Auditor General itself, we will take them forward. The first one was, you correct me if I'm wrong, if I did not get you properly. The first one was on the audit firms misunderstanding the systems. The systems, when they come to audit, you know, their organization, and which turns out to be detrimental to the organization as the reports appear in the media, they are sort of, you know, distorted. Did I get you well on that one? Yes. Yeah. This one will carry it forward. I got my colleague here. You assist me, Mr. Stolle. I think we'll take it up with the Auditor General on the misunderstanding, maybe on the choice of audit firms. Are we choosing the right audit firms to audit the local authorities? Am I right? I think that's how I understood it. But if you feel the question has not been captured well, you can write something and give it to me. Then the second one is, why is that there is a disparity in terms of the fees that you are charged? Some are charged 2,000, some 5,000, 6,000. Whereas, the problem of cash flows is a universal problem. It's affecting everyone alike. This one we carried forward again for consideration. The third one, you said we are coming up with a balanced report. Where should we get the report, the responses from? Is it from the parastatal itself or from the ministry? Should the response come from the parastatal or the organization, or from the parent ministry? Who should respond to that? Mr. Stoll, you would want to? I think we take it as it is. Ratings. Where are we ranked as the audit office? I think this one, I'm not privy to give this one to you or to the public. Therefore, we take it up again. But the rankings, maybe I can explain and say, the ratings, they range from 1 to 5. 1 is the least. The best one is, of course, is 5. So we are in between there. It's very difficult to achieve 5, 100% is perfection. But I think you bear witness, we are having an impact in terms of our performance. But in terms of the rating, which is done by the other organization which we are affiliated to, that information cannot be disclosed here.
Forensic auditing and investigations. A round of applause for Mr. Mnasi for questions answered and unanswered. Okay, according to the program, we should come up with resolutions. We are ready to take the contributions. What do you want us to forward to our principals? As you can tell from your program, our principals are the Office of the President and Cabinet, as well as the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development.
I got 3 items which I think it can become a resolution. The first one, Master of Ceremony. I want to move a resolution of saying government should protect the local authorities through the Constitution provisions, which is there in the constitutions, especially in finances. The government must allocate local authorities their 5%. The government should return unity tax to local authorities and pay their royalties in mines, number two, I'd like to move that the government must pay the debtors of local authorities number three, as local authorities were telling the government to exempt local authority in paying tax to ZIMRA. Thank you, Chair.
In this prevailing economy, that requirement is unrealistic. What it means, if it is to be achieved, is to reduce the salaries of employees, because the revenue base is ever dwindling. So it is a mystery, and it is difficult to understand how even in central government it's not achievable, but local authorities are being asked to do the impossible. I think that one needs to be relooked at.
Maybe I'm suggesting quite 3 or 4 resolutions. Number one, the National Code of Corporate Governance should be completed so that we may know which direction to take. Number two, regulations for the Public Finance Act should be completed so that the Public Finance Act can be enforced. Number three, we have to try and separate economics from politics. I'm dwelling much on the budget which were presented by Mr. Shafika, where he indicated that they cannot disown the budget due to the fact that they may lose their post in the politics environment. And the last one is to come up with the reporting standards which highlight challenges. As it was indicated, I don't know, I am forgetting the name of the person, that the International Financial Requirement Standards is not indicating problems. The sustainability reporting is not also indicating the challenges. Therefore, I propose that we have to come up with the reporting standards which indicate challenges. Thank you.
Let's get a word, a quick word from our organizers. They want to share something with you guys.
Thank you, Dewey. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure we've had a very enthralling past 2 days, or 1.5 days. My role is just to do the vote of thanks and just to thank everyone who participated. Firstly, we just want to thank our principals, that is the Office of the President and Cabinet and the Minister of Finance, for making this possible. We would also like to thank our speakers, starting from yesterday, where we had Ambassador Stuart Kumbabach. We also had Honorable David Chafika, who is the chairperson of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Budget, Finance and Economic Development. Also want to thank Honorable Sansole, who was standing in for Honorable Pauline Mpariwa, who is the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee. We'd also like to thank Mr. Soni Mabeju, who is a senior consultant at the World Bank, for his presentation yesterday. Also, would like to thank Mr. Daniel Mchemwa, the Accountant General, for his presentation as well. Also moving on today, we'd like to thank Meth Kunaka. Thank you so much, the CEO of ICAS. Thank you very much. We'd also like to thank Mr. Nyazenga, the President of the Internal Auditors Institute of Zimbabwe. Thank you so much. And last but not least, we want to thank the Auditor General's Office. Let's just give a round of applause to our speakers for wonderful presentations. We would also just want to thank our sponsors, POSB, as well as GTEL. Let's give a round of applause to our sponsors. Also, just to say again, I think Dumi, our MC, has emphasized the issue of the awards tonight. I'm looking forward to those awards. They are going to be very exciting awards, and a lot of people have been asking me, have we won, have we not won, and so forth. But unfortunately, we cannot divulge that. Some of it I don't even know myself. So, but tonight is going to be a very interesting night, and I would urge you all to attend tonight's event. Registration will start at 6:30 in the evening, and exactly 7 o'clock we will start the award ceremony. Also, just to thank the hotel for the facilities, the food, and everything. I think they did a good job. To thank our team from Innotech and Ribble, the wonderful ladies. Let's give a round of applause to those ladies. Thank you so much. Last but not least, I'm not sure if I should thank this guy. I don't know if he did a good job. Should we thank the MC? Do you think he did a good job? Oh, okay. Let's thank our MC. Thank you very much, people.